When you stop giving everyone access to your emotions, you immediately change the way your life feels. Most people don't realize that their emotional reactions are like open doors. Anyone can walk in, mess things up, and walk right out, leaving you to deal with the damage. The truth is, not everybody deserves that kind of access to you. Your emotions are valuable, your peace is valuable, and not everyone should get the right to reach in and stir it up whenever they please. Think about it. Every time you react to someone who doesn't matter, you're paying with your peace. You're giving away control for free, and most of the time, the other person isn't even thinking about you after the moment has passed. They've moved on, but you're still carrying the weight of what they said or did. Training yourself to be unbothered starts with deciding who gets access to your emotional energy. If you imagine your emotions as a bank account, every angry outburst, every overreaction, every sleepless night spent replaying someone's words, that's all withdrawals. Eventually, you're drained. But if you decide that not everyone is allowed to swipe your card, you keep your account strong. You save your energy for the things that truly matter. The people who love you, the goals you're chasing, the life you're building, those are worthy of your emotional investment. The random stranger who cuts you off in traffic, the coworker who wants to gossip, the distant relative who loves drama, none of them are worth overdrawing your account. A big part of this is realizing that your emotions belong to you, not to the people around you. Too often, we let our reactions be dictated by outside forces, almost like remote controls that anyone can pick up and push buttons on. When you stop giving that control away, you start to see how much calmer you can be. Somebody rolls their eyes at you, that doesn't have to reach you. Somebody throws a passive-aggressive comment your way, you don't have to accept the package. Somebody ignores you on purpose, you don't have to chase their attention. The less you let people pull those strings, the more freedom you feel. Now, that doesn't mean you don't feel emotions. Being unbothered isn't about being numb or detached from life. It's about knowing that your emotions are yours to manage, not for others to dictate. You can feel frustrated without exploding. You can feel hurt without broadcasting it to the world. You can feel angry without letting it ruin your day. That's the kind of emotional discipline that changes everything. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. The way to start is by pausing before you react. That pause is where you decide whether this person, this situation, or this comment deserves a piece of your peace. Most of the time, the answer is no. They don't deserve it. And when you learn to say no silently, without explanation, you train yourself to be unbothered. Because the reality is, when you stop giving everyone access to your emotions, you stop being controlled by every little thing that happens around you. You build a stronger version of yourself, one that doesn't bend every time the wind blows, one that isn't pushed around by moods, noise, or other people's drama. You create a steady foundation inside of you, one that can't be shaken so easily, no matter what the world throws your way. Learning the power of silence over reaction is one of the strongest skills you can ever train yourself in. Most people think that silence means weakness, that if you don't respond right away, you're letting the other person win. But silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's restraint. It's the ability to stay in control when everything around you is trying to pull you into chaos. When you stay silent, you aren't ignoring the situation. You're choosing not to feed it with your energy. You're deciding that not every comment, not every argument, and not every insult deserves your voice. When people try to provoke you, what they really want is a reaction. They want proof that they have some kind of control over your emotions. They want to see you flinch, snap back, raise your voice, or get defensive, because that tells them they've succeeded in pulling you out of your peace. But when you respond with silence, you take that power away instantly. You're not giving them the reward they're looking for. You're showing them that you are not easily moved. Silence becomes a shield, protecting you from being dragged into battles that don't matter. The beauty of silence is that it speaks louder than any angry words ever could. People expect noise. They expect a fight. They expect you to match their energy. When you don't, it forces them to sit with their own behavior. Your silence makes them uncomfortable because it reflects their actions back at them. It shows them they can throw all the negativity they want your way, but you're not going to carry it. That kind of calm, steady response unsettles people more than any argument could because they realize they can't control you. Silence also gives you time to think. In that pause, you get to process instead of react. You get to decide whether responding is even worth it or if it's better to let it roll off your back. And most of the time, once you've given yourself that pause, you realize you don't need to say anything at all. The moment passes, the tension dies down, and you keep your peace intact. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about recognizing that not everything deserves your voice. Some things resolve themselves without your involvement. Some people expose themselves without you having to lift a finger. Another reason silence is powerful is because it can't be misquoted, twisted, or used against you. Words once spoken can be taken out of context, thrown back at you, or used as fuel to keep the conflict going. But when you stay silent, there's nothing to grab onto. You deny others the ability to drag your words into their drama. You deny them the chance to distort your emotions into a story that benefits them. Silence leaves them with nothing but their own noise. Training yourself to be unbothered means realizing that silence is not a lack of strength, but the ultimate display of it. It shows you are in control of yourself, that you won't be pulled into every storm, and that your peace isn't up for negotiation. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you remind yourself that your energy is yours to protect, and no one else gets to dictate how you spend it. Building boundaries that protect your peace is one of the most important ways to train yourself to be unbothered. Without boundaries, you leave yourself wide open for anyone and everyone to walk in, dump their problems on you, take advantage of your kindness, or drain your energy without a second thought. Boundaries aren't walls meant to keep everyone out. They're gates that you control. They allow in what serves you and keep out what doesn't. And that kind of intentional living is what separates people who are constantly stressed and overwhelmed from people who move through life with calm and clarity. Boundaries start with recognizing your limits. You have to be honest with yourself about what you can handle and what you can't. Too many people push themselves to please others, saying yes when they should say no, tolerating behavior that goes against their values, or allowing relationships to continue that only bring stress and negativity. Every time you do that, you send the message that your peace is negotiable. But when you set boundaries, you're making it clear that your well-being is not up for discussion. You're saying, this is where I draw the line, and if that line is crossed, there will be consequences. One of the hardest parts of setting boundaries is dealing with the pushback. People who have been used to having access to your time, your energy, or your emotions will not like it when you start saying no. They might guilt you, pressure you, or even accuse you of being selfish. But that resistance is proof that the boundary is necessary. Protecting your peace will never make everyone happy, but it will make your life healthier. Over time, the people who respect you will adjust, and the people who don't will remove themselves. Either way, you win because you've kept your peace intact. Boundaries also work as filters for your emotions. When you have them in place, you stop letting other people's moods dictate your own. Someone can be angry, bitter, or dramatic, and instead of being pulled into it, your boundary keeps you grounded. You know what belongs to you and what doesn't. Their storm doesn't have to become yours. That separation is what keeps you from being constantly bothered by things that are outside your control. When you commit to building boundaries, you're making a promise to yourself that your peace comes first. You're no longer allowing every demand, every expectation, and every bit of negativity to come flooding into your life unchecked. You're taking back control, deciding who gets access and how much. And the more consistent you are with those boundaries, the easier it becomes to live unbothered, because you've built a system that shields you from unnecessary chaos and keeps you focused on the life you want to live. Detaching from what you can't control is one of the most freeing skills you can ever develop if you want to stay unbothered. So much of the stress and frustration people carry comes from trying to manage things that were never in their hands to begin with. The truth is, you can't control people's opinions. You can't control their choices. You can't control what they think about you. And you can't control how they decide to show up in life. The only thing you ever have full control over is yourself, your mindset, your reactions, and your actions. When you finally accept that, it becomes much easier to stop wasting energy on what doesn't belong to you. Think about how often people exhaust themselves by replaying conversations in their head, trying to figure out how they could have made someone like them more, or worrying endlessly about whether others approve of their decisions. That cycle of overthinking is nothing more than trying to control the uncontrollable. The moment you step back and recognize that other people's thoughts are not your responsibility, you reclaim your peace. Their opinions may be loud, but they don't have the power to define you unless you hand it to them. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring about people or the world around you. It means you understand the limits of your influence. You can guide, you can encourage, you can set an example, but you cannot force outcomes. You cannot make someone appreciate your value if they're determined not to see it. You cannot make life play out exactly how you pictured it. You cannot bend time, fix every situation, or control every outcome. And that realization isn't depressing, it's liberating. It takes a heavy weight off your shoulders because you're no longer carrying burdens that were never yours to hold. When you detach from what you can't control, you also start to see how much lighter life feels. You stop getting caught up in arguments that go nowhere. You stop chasing people who don't respect your effort. You stop stressing over situations that have already unfolded. Instead, you redirect that energy into the things that actually are within your control, your growth, your mindset, your choices, your responses. And when you pour your energy into those areas, you notice that your life begins to move in a healthier direction because you're no longer distracted by battles that aren't yours to fight. Training yourself to be unbothered is really about learning to let go of the illusion of control. You can't stop people from judging, you can't prevent challenges from coming, and you can't avoid every difficulty, but you can choose not to tie your peace to outcomes you can't control. You can choose to stay grounded, to stay calm, and to focus on what's actually in your hands. That's where your true strength lies, in recognizing that detachment isn't giving up. It's freeing yourself from chains that were never yours in the first place. Practicing patience over pressure is one of the most underrated skills when it comes to becoming unbothered. The world we live in pushes urgency at every turn. Everything has to be fast, immediate, and instant. People demand quick responses, quick results, and quick changes, and when they don't get them, frustration builds. Pressure creates stress, and stress makes people reactive instead of thoughtful. But patience shifts everything. Patience slows you down long enough to make better decisions, to protect your peace, and to stop rushing into situations that only steal your energy. When you choose patience, you're choosing to step out of the chaos and give yourself room to breathe. Instead of letting pressure dictate your reaction, you give yourself permission to pause and respond when you're ready. That pause is where your strength lives. Most people snap back, argue, or explode under pressure because they think they need to prove themselves right away. But patience proves that you don't have to move on anyone else's timeline. You control your pace. You control when and how you respond. That control is what keeps you from being easily shaken by whatever is happening around you. Patience also helps you see the bigger picture. Pressure makes everything feel urgent, like the smallest inconvenience is the end of the world. But patience allows you to zoom out and realize that most situations aren't worth the level of energy people give them. The rude comment, the delayed plan, the unexpected problem, none of it has the power to destroy your peace unless you hand it over. Patience reminds you that storms pass, people calm down, and circumstances change. What feels heavy in the moment won't feel as heavy tomorrow if you don't let pressure push you into overreacting. Another thing patience does is protect your relationships. When you practice patience, you're less likely to say words you don't mean in the heat of the moment. you're less likely to let frustration ruin your connection with people you care about. Patience helps you hold back when emotions are high and allows space for better conversations later. Instead of giving in to the pressure of the moment, you're building strength that keeps you grounded and unbothered. Choosing patience over pressure doesn't mean you ignore problems or avoid taking action. It means you handle them with calm instead of chaos. It means you understand that rushing rarely fixes anything, but waiting with intention often does. It means you don't let other people's urgency become your emergency. That's the kind of mindset that keeps you steady in a world that's constantly trying to pull you into panic and noise. Patience is not passive. It's power. It's the ability to stand strong in the middle of pressure and decide that your peace matters more than anyone's demand for a reaction. Redirecting your focus toward what actually matters is how you keep yourself from being consumed by distractions that don't deserve your time. Every day, there are countless things pulling for your attention: negative comments, unnecessary drama, other people's opinions, and situations that are completely out of your control. If you let your mind run after all of those things, you'll constantly feel drained and unsettled. But when you make the intentional choice to focus only on what truly matters, you train yourself to stay grounded and unbothered no matter what's happening around you. The reality is that most of what bothers people doesn't hold any real weight in the long run. That one critical remark, that small inconvenience, that person who didn't treat you the way you expected, they feel big in the moment, but they rarely change the course of your life. What does change the course of your life are the things you give consistent attention to: your health, your peace, your growth, your relationships, your goals. Those are the things that matter. Redirecting your focus to them means you're not wasting your emotional energy on things that won't even matter a week from now. It takes discipline to shift your attention because the easy thing to do is get caught up in distractions. It feels natural to replay what someone said or let your mind spiral over situations you can't control. But each time you pull yourself back and ask, "Does this really matter?" you strengthen your ability to stay unbothered. That question becomes a filter. If the answer is no, you let it go. If the answer is yes, you give it your full focus without apology. When you commit to focusing on what actually matters, you also begin to see how much lighter life becomes. You stop carrying unnecessary weight. You stop letting every little thing have the power to knock you off balance. Instead, your energy is poured into things that bring you peace and growth. And the more you practice this redirection, the more natural it feels. You don't have to chase every distraction. You don't have to respond to every noise. You don't have to involve yourself in every situation. You simply choose where your attention goes. And by doing that, you protect your peace and strengthen your ability to remain unbothered.